Hey guys, in this tutorial I'm going to show you how to eliminate these shadows here caused by flash in a portrait. Now this is a kind of thing that's it can be a common occurrence in portraits when the lighting is perhaps a bit more side on rather than flat on. So I think if you can try and avoid having to edit this sort of issue, it's going to save you a lot of time. This is a very complicated retouch and it's going to take a long time, so it's best to avoid it. So following a more simple front-on lighting setup and using two lights and very soft light is going to help get your light in there and under the hair, and also little details like making sure that the models always have their hair brushed back off their face. I like to get it over one side, but little things like that are really going to help with your lighting. So these are things that you need to watch out for before you start shooting. Alright, so this is actually a fairly tricky retouch to do because it's hard to use the clone stamp when you've got a shadow. It just doesn't really render these areas particularly well. So what I like to do is use the brush tool on a new empty layer, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to paint a new color over the shadow areas, and then I'll use add some noise and some texture into that area, and then burn and dodge to hopefully make it appear like this side of the face. So let's have a go. So I've got my brush tool selected. My mode is normal. I'm going to make sure I've got 0 hardness on the brush. Opacity 100%, and I'm going to have my flow nice and low, about 5% there. So what I'm going to do is select, so I'm holding down the Option on a Mac or Alt key on a PC, and you can see the eyedropper there. Make a selection and you'll see it come up in the foreground color. There it is. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to very lightly just brush over that shadow area. All right, now what you're going to notice is what it does is it flattens the whole face, because we lose the shape because we've just got, like, we're applying one flat color. But hopefully I can bring that back with some burning and dodging. So we've got like a couple of issues. We've got here where there's the shadow, and then right next to it is the highlight. So I want to try and just even that all out. And you almost need to have some painting skills to do this. It's like you're painting a portrait. That's how I sort of look at it. So this is why I say it's much easier to avoid this in the first place and get it right with lighting, rather than that five seconds that it takes to reposition your light is going to save you hours in post-production. All right, so I'm just evening out, very low flow, so it's like not going on super thick. I can still see some of the texture underneath, but what I'm trying to do is get a nice even application there. All right, now you can see it doesn't look anything at the moment. It's looking super dodge actually, but that will improve. All right, and while I'm here, I'm just going to give the face a light edit as well. Okay, so that's that side of the face. Now I'm going to do this one, and I know it doesn't look fantastic now, but just bear with me, it will get better. So now I'm just going over this shadow. So basically I'm just painting colour over the top. All right, so now we've got that set. I've got to make it look like the other side of the face. So you can see what's happened here is when you apply pixels, which is all we're doing when we're painting is applying pixels, we don't have the texture or the grain. So we need to add that back in to our image. So what I'm going to do is add a little bit of noise first. So we've got filter, noise, add noise, and probably if I zoom right in, if I go and I'm using the arrow key up just to increase, you can see it coming in now. Let me just zoom in a little bit more. All right, so we've got before and after. That helps, but it's still not enough. We've still got lumps and bumps. So what I'm going to do now is place the Miracle Skin layer over the top of that. And there is a free download and a tutorial on this. In the download section of the community. So I'm going to put one on each face because I don't want to enlarge it. I want the grain texture to be quite small. So that's why I'm putting one patch on each face. So there's that, and Command J will copy that, and then I can drag it across to here. All right, so I've now got a little face on each one. I can merge the layers so that I've created one layer. And now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to adjust the brightness contrast. Actually, before I do that, I'll change my blend mode to overlay. All right, and so now you can see the texture is there on the skin. We've brought that in, but now it's also a little bit bright. So we'll adjust the brightness and contrast. And I just use my arrow key. And what I'm looking for is where I can no longer see that line across the hair. Let me just show you. Here's where I started, and I'm just going to slide across until it blends in. And now I've got the same brightness to my skin overlay as I have, or luminosity to my skin overlay as I have in my original image. And that's important to help it blend in. All right, so now I've created skin over the top, and you can see that that has made a huge difference to the edit there on the camera right side of the face. It kind of really helps sell it, I think. And I could even think we can make that a little bit larger. And I think that looks pretty good. And the other thing I want to do is I want to kind of match the texture of the skin more. So when I'm seeing like little lumps and bumps like this in this girl's skin, if I can find another texture that looks like that and apply that as well. So I'm just going to do that. So in the texture pack that I shared with you a few months back, there is this texture. It's actually of a cement wall, but I think it actually matches the skin tone quite well. So I'm going to also apply that as an overlay. So just dragging it across, and I'm just going to resize that to fit over the top of both the faces. I don't want the texture to be too coarse. Something like that. And again, blend mode to overlay. And this time, when I've added that as an overlay, you can see that it's much, much darker than my original skin tone. So what I'm going to do is adjust the brightness contrast of this. Just until I'm looking here, it blends in about there is the right consistency. Okay, so, and we can see that this is quite a coarse texture compared to the actual face, but it's not far off. This is like MacGyvering, retouching by MacGyvering. So let's have a look now. Before, after, it's not too bad. So what I'm going to do is just reduce the opacity. All right, about there. And now what I'm going to do is add a layer mask to this, because what I want to be able to do is not have texture in the eyeballs and on the teeth. I just want to apply it where I need it, which is mostly in this area. So I'm going to have a layer mask, and then what I'm going to do is hide this adjustment, this skin texture adjustment, so that I can then bring it back into the areas with a brush. So in order to hide that, I just need to invert it. So Command I will do that, and now it's disappeared. And if I want to bring it back, I just paint with white. So anywhere I want it to appear, I paint with white. I'll do the same with this skin texture layer, because you can see I've got texture on the skin and I don't need texture on the skin. All right, so now I can just come in and apply some skin texture to the retouched area. And I can also, if I click on my coarse texture layer, I can now just apply some areas, and not all over, but I think mostly to certain parts of the cheeks. And maybe the chin area where I've retouched, and I just want to match the coarseness . And I think that looks good. And the only thing now that's missing is, I think it needs, it's too sharp compared to this side. So it probably just needs a bit of blur. So I'll add that now to that layer. So it's filter, blur, Gaussian blur, and probably about 1 pixel should do it. So let's have a look. We've got before and after. I think that looks pretty good. That looks about right. Okay, the next thing I think that's missing is on this side of the face she's wearing rouge, and on this side of the face she isn't. So I'm going to copy this color here and apply it to this part of her cheek here. So I'm, again, new empty layer, got my brush tool, going to make a selection, and this time I'm going to change my blend mode to color, and it's just this color that I'll pick some of the darker area transferring over to here. So again, opacity 100%, low flow, nice soft brush, and I'm just brushing on some colour onto the cheeks and onto the edge of the chin there. So we can see before and after, and that kind of helps. And I also think that I need a bit more texture here, so I'm actually going to now duplicate that layer. There we go. That's looking better. As you can see before and after, that's just brought in a little bit more texture, and what I might do is just add a bit more, make it just a bit thicker. All right, so let's have a look. That's where we started. That's where we are now. Starting to look good. And so next thing I want to tackle is I want to do some burning and dodging. So I'm going to get my burning and dodging actions. So from the Burn and Dodge 2018 pack, I'm going to hit darker first, play that, hit the lighter, play that, come back to layers, and first I'm going to do some dodging. So I've got my foreground color set to white, brush selected, soft brush, normal is the mode, opacity 100%, and I'll bring my flow up to about 10-15% and just come in, and I'm just going to give this eye a little dodge and the eyebrow, and just brighten that up to kind of match the other side. So let's have a look before and after, a little bit more. All right, that helps. And before I do any other lightening or any other dodging, what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring back these lines under the girl's eyes on this side of the face, because it takes away from her personality. So what I can do is with the clone stamp, I can clone this area, flip it around and put it under this area. I told you this was a tricky retouch. So what I'm going to do is new empty layer, all right, above the other layers that I've created. And I'm going to select the clone stamp. Blend mode is normal, opacity 100%, flow 5%. Make sure all layers is checked. And what I'm going to do is come in and make a selection here at the end. And I'm just going to, on this side, just brush that so that I've copied, and I'm just copying that entire eye area. And so when you do cloning on an empty layer, so basically what I've done is I've just made a new under eye, there it is. When you clone on a new empty layer, you can actually move that. I can now move that wherever I want to. So there's my clone on the empty layer, but what it is the left side of the face, the camera left, and I need it to go on the camera right side of the face. So what I'm going to do is flip it around. So image, edit, transform, flip horizontal, and now it's the exact mirror of that side of the eye. And now I can just kind of place it under the eye like that. And what I've created is a new kind of clean under eye area. And then it's just a matter of with, I'll add a layer mask to that. So hit OK and invert it. And what I can do now with a white brush is bring it back just under the eye there. And I can play around with the black brush if I ever want to reduce any of it. If it looks like too much, that takes it away. But what we've done is we've just brought back that little section. It just helps sell the overall shot. So I've got the texture there that's matching. I've matched the skin tone. What I need to do now is just make this appear more three-dimensional. So what I want is to have the side of the face going off into shadow and bringing a little bit of a highlight so the face doesn't look so flat. So we'll do that with so we'll do some burning first. So nice soft brush, and I'm going to drop my flow down to about 2% now. And what I'm going to do is just tackle the side of the face, so just burning that in. Sorry, I've got to have my white selected, so just burning that in there. Making it a little bit darker. And then I want to bring in some highlights. Just on the middle of the face there, back on the chin. And I think I'm going to need to bring in some more texture into this area. Because it's all looking a bit fuzzy. All right, so let's have a look. We've got before and after. I think she looks pretty good there, and I think that's managed to transform the image. I might just give her eye a little bit of another dodge just to bring out the, I'll actually increase, just to brighten that a bit so that it matches. There we go. So that's gotten rid of that shadow there as well. And I think that almost looks pretty believable. We brought back the texture and the quality of the skin. Some of the color made it appear more three-dimensional as well. And I think that seems to work.